Well, China has sent 150,000 troops to the North Korean border. American fleets are sailing towards the peninsula, and Kim Jong-Un says he's going to nuke us all. Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Whittle here with Steve Green and Scott Ott, and this is your right angle on the situation in Korea, which I think is actually looking better than it has in quite a long time. Guys, the preface to this, and one of the things I wanted to talk about with this story was when I hear 150,000 troops from China moving to Korea, I thought, oh, great, here comes Korean War II. They're gonna back up the North Koreans, and it's going to be a bloody mess. But I began to rethink that very seriously. Scotty, let's start with you. There's another possibility here, and I think it's a much more likely possibility, and that is that China is putting those troops on the North Korean border to deal with a massive flood of refugees if the Kim dynasty is knocked over. I think they know that they're on very borrowed time out there in North Korea.
Well, and I think they also realize that where their bread is buttered, so to speak, because people who are starving to death don't buy no iPhones. And
right.
If you want to be in league with somebody, or at least having friendly relations with somebody, it is a huge market for your product, like the United States of America, rather than the People's Republic of North Korea, where from a satellite image you can see they apparently don't have a light bulb. And so I think that, China is being, sort of serious about their geostrategy and looking at this and saying, we do not want to encourage this petty dictator to go beyond what he's already done. And I don't think the United States is really doing any saber rattling. I think they're finally just standing up to a dictator. I think we are saying, look, you can't behave this way, and this is not going to go the direction it has throughout, the last 150 years or so with dictators, where everybody in the world tries to calm them down and basically give them what they want and say, hey, let's make a deal so you can make fewer nuclear weapons than we thought you were going to make. No, instead we're basically saying, no, you're not going to threaten us. You're not going to have, threaten war between major powers like this because of your little ambitions. So I'm actually rather encouraged by what I'm seeing so far. And I don't think China is going to find itself lining up across the battlefield from United States troops anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't think so either, or Russians for that matter, which leads me to my next question, Steve. I think my operational theory, and I don't know what else you could use to describe it, and I'll just put this as plainly as I can. I think what we're seeing in North Korea is part of a worldwide move on the part of the Trump administration to re-educate our allies and our adversaries that we are no longer the scalded dog that's going to run away with its tail between its legs, that we are here to defend certain principles and we'll defend them with force if we have to. And I think that's what the Syrian airstrike was about, and so on. So what would you say to people who are concerned that Donald Trump is about to lead us into two wars, and the question is only going to be, are my children going to be incinerated by a Russian nuclear bomb or a Chinese nuclear bomb?
Well, listen, we have two similar situations with two very bad actors in Syria and North Korea. And in both cases, at least in one case so far, the Trump approach has been to strike at Syria in order to bring the Russians on board, not to alienate the Russians, but to bring them on board, as I discussed in Scott's segment. We could be looking at something similar in North Korea, which is to appear menacing enough to bring China on board. Let me tell you why I think that's so important. I ran the numbers on this 12, 13 years ago back at vodkapundit.com. South Korea simply cannot afford to reintegrate with North Korea. Unification is too expensive for South Korea to afford on its own, because North Korea is so poor, it's so brutalized, it's so propagandized. South Korea can't do this alone. They need superpower help, preferably more local superpower help. China, on the other hand, can't afford to have one free united Korea stretching all the way to the Yalu River. That's just intolerable to an officially communist regime. So you'd have to have a demilitarized zone being all of North Korea if the two Koreas were to be unified. But South Korea couldn't maintain order in North Korea without the army. So you're at this crossroads. And I realize that the only way out, the only politically feasible way out from North Korea would be if one day at dark 30, Chinese paratroopers showed up in the streets of Pyongyang and seized power and became the protector of North Korea until such time as the two Koreas could hopefully, 40 or 50 years down the road, become united once again. That's the long-term hope. And so when I see 150,000 Chinese troops on the Yalu River, just like in 1950 or 51, I don't see them coming screaming down at us. I see them doing what I've been urging China to do since about 2003 or 2004, which is to take control of their just mad dog puppet and put an end to this vile Kim regime. And boy, they might just do it this time. And if so, good on President Trump for helping prod them to action.
When I listen to the situation and I hear people complaining about this threat of war and so on, I always go right back to a story of Ulysses S. Grant, who had the moral courage actually to end that civil war through unbelievable butchery and casualties, unbelievable what he faced, what the entire country faced. But Grant was talking about the first time he was in combat during the Civil War, and there were some Confederates up on a hill, and he knew they were up on a hill, and he knew he had to go up there and attack them the next day. And as he's going up, these are Grant's words now, as I was climbing that hill, my heart was in my throat. I was just absolutely terrified. And as we got to the top of the hill, we found out that the Confederates had retreated. And he said, and it was at that moment I realized that they were as afraid of us as I was afraid of them, and I never forgot that, not ever. What we're seeing with North Korea is a simple assertion, basically, that this country is now going to protect itself. It's not going to be a paper tiger, and we need to make the rest of the world understand something that they do understand. Actually, when I think about it, it's not a problem making the rest of the world understand what I'm about to say. It's making the American people understand what I'm about to say, and that is pretty simply this. We should stop worrying about going to war with Korea or China, or we should stop worrying about Russia, or stop worrying about going to war with Syria, and make them start worrying about going to war with us. That is how you preserve the peace, whether you like it or not. That is how you preserve the peace. You show a willingness to hit back, and if people are aware of that, then they just tend to not hit so much. That's how it works, whether you like it or not. So bravo. I couldn't be more impressed. For Steve Green, Scott Ott, I'm Bill Whittle. Thanks again to our paying members here at BillWhittle.com who make it all possible. We've been doing the show for about a year now. We're very, very grateful, and we look forward to going on in the years to come.